Hi, my name is Will, and this is my final project for abnormal psychology. I've decided to do a video analysis of the movie Good Will Hunting, which happens to be one of my favorite movies of all time. In this movie, there are a couple different mental disorders that I'll be discussing and analyzing, some of which include attachment disorder, borderline personality disorder, and post-traumatic stress disorder, or PTSD. I'll be looking at these disorders through both lenses of the movie and then also providing some relevant research outside of the movie on top of that, and then kind of talking about the prevalence of these disorders in today's society. I hope you enjoy this presentation, and at the end of this presentation, I'll include a link to my references that are being used here and answer any questions you guys may have. So let's get on with it. Before talking about some of the mental disorders that are displayed here in the movie, I would like to provide a brief summary of the movie, Good Will Hunting. And the movie opens up with our main character, played by Matt Damon, Will Hunting, who is a janitor at the notorious MIT. Now, Will is seen solving a math puzzle outside on the blackboard of a professor's classroom. This is supposed to be an equation or theory that is very difficult to crack, yet somehow Will is able to figure out. Now, after Will is in trouble and sent back to jail, the professor decides to take him under his wing with the understanding that Will sees a therapist. So throughout the movie, Will works with a therapist played by Robin Williams. His name is Sean, and Will and Sean form a very unique relationship. Both Will and Sean figure out that they have very troubled pasts and actually have a few things in common. Throughout the movie, the two kind of understand life through their shared experiences, through relationships, through work, and everything that goes on through each one of their day-to-day lives. Ultimately, we do see that Will is troubled and has had some things go on in the past and even in the present moments with his own relationships and his own work and whatnot. Ultimately, though, what we see is the two form a very strong relationship and they're able to work through things and have these conversations. And although certain psychological disorders are not actually diagnosed in the movie, it's one of those things that viewers can kind of either make an inference on or use other symptoms or clues from the movie to try to hypothesize what a diagnosis may be. So, although I'm mentioning attachment disorder, PTSD, and borderline personality disorder, the movie does not blatantly or directly say that these disorders are diagnosed by a therapist for Will Hunting. I want to kick off the analysis of this video by talking about Will Hunting and attachment disorder. We learn through Will's therapy with Sean that he had bounced in and out of foster homes as a child, and he's had a difficult upbringing, being abused himself by caregivers. And possibly as a result of this, that may be why he resorts to physically and verbally abusing others. And that's a very popular scene in a part of the movie. There's a bar scene where Will defends a woman who he was, flirting with at the bar, and he does this by having kind of an intellectual debate with another man at the bar, but then even, threatens him to fight him physically. And so we see that Will has truly a difficult time forming relationships, and that's a common theme throughout the rest of the movie. And so that's just a little bit about how attachment disorder is displayed here in the movie Good Will Hunting, but the next two slides I've provide a little bit more about the definition and recent research for attachment disorder. Ultimately, an attachment disorder is a type of mood or behavioral disorder that affects a person's ability to form and maintain relationships. Now, although the disorder is often diagnosed in early childhood, we can see that Will has many of the symptoms as an adult. The next mental disorder that I would like to take a look at is PTSD, or post-traumatic stress disorder. And as I previously mentioned, our main character Will has been in and out of foster homes after already being abused by his father. And so kind of some of the trauma that Will has experienced has played a big role into his upbringing and who he is as a person. And so that's one of the biggest places we see PTSD here in this movie. But the next slide kind of breaks down what PTSD is and where we see it today in modern society. Many of us are familiar with what PTSD is and understand that it typically affects someone after they experience a traumatic event. On this slide, we can see a checklist from our textbook which kind of breaks down some of the symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder. The last mental disorder I want to talk about in this movie is borderline personality disorder, or BPD. Now, there isn't a lot of information or journals out there about whether or not borderline personality disorder is even in this movie. However, I think it could be possible that Will Hunting, may be diagnosed with this due to his impulsive nature and the way he acts around both himself and others. He sees the world to be very black and white, this or that, and he very, very harshly judges himself and others. We see him in a therapy session threaten his therapist, Sean, and his wife out of nowhere. We see other times, especially in the beginning of the movie, where he just impulsively becomes very violent. And so I just think that the instability of Will's character shows that it's possible that he may actually be diagnosed with borderline personality disorder. BPD is defined by Mayo Clinic as a mental health disorder that relates to how one feels about themselves and others to the point that it disrupts their everyday life. Interestingly enough, the prevalence of BPD is about 1.6% of the general population. If you've yet to see the movie Good Will Hunting, I strongly recommend that you check it out. It's a great movie to just watch on a Friday night or one to look at from a psychological lens. Like I mentioned at the beginning of this video, I will link my APA sources in the discussion post below, and if you have any questions, please feel free to ask and I'll get back to them as quickly as I can. Thanks for watching and have a good one.